Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. Today I'll be giving you my honest thoughts on some new designer fragrance releases. I have smelled these a few times. I'm going to be giving you my unbiased opinion, and a lot of these perfumes have been very polarizing. Some people have been loving them, some people have been hating them, and I have quite a few thoughts on these fragrances. So if you're interested, do consider watching this video. But if this is your first time on this channel, hello, my name is Anya. I absolutely love perfumes and I talk about them here every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, along with a ton of bonus content in between. I'm currently in the process of considering doing videos 5 days a week. So if you want to see videos from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, definitely consider engaging with this video, telling me what you think about this video in the comments, liking this video, disliking it, but just engage with this video so I know that you're interested in seeing more content from me, because that would be much appreciated. But yeah, I absolutely love perfumes, but I'm very much considerate of the whole consumerism factor of it. I try to be very mindful about what goes into my collection, which is why I did recently release a perfume expense tracker. So you can check that out in the description of this video. But essentially, I want to make sure that we are all kind of incorporating financial discipline into the fragrance hobby that we all know and love. So if you're interested, definitely do check that out below. But yeah, let's get into this video because there are quite a few fragrances that I have heard a lot about, that I've heard a lot of people mention, and people have very polarizing opinions on, and I just wanted to give you my personal feedback on these perfumes. I don't own any of them, but I have sampled several of them. I have smelled them several times, so I do think that gives me the ability to tell you about my first impressions of these perfumes. Starting off with Libra Flowers and Flames. This is the newest flanker from the Libra line by YSL. This is a citrus white flower perfume with top notes of lavender and bergamot, a mid of orange blossom, lavender, coconut, and lily palm tree as well, and then a base of vanilla. This perfume smells to me way more tropical than any of the Libra fragrances. And I will say this, I watched OU Pretty Things live recently, and her name is Jess. She is most prominent on TikTok and Instagram, but she had a comment on this fragrance that she actually said that she was hoping that they would lean into something that was more autumn winter appropriate, especially with the name Flowers and Flames. And I have to say I do agree, because this perfume comes off as extremely tropical. So if you're interested in a more tropical interpretation of the classic Libra fragrance, this might be for you. But for me personally, I'm not necessarily into that. I think this fragrance definitely smells nice, and if you're a fan of Libra DNA, you might like this perfume. But to me, this perfume is very much a pass. I like it, I don't love it. But yeah, I definitely do wish they had kind of like leaned into maybe like a more boozy, a more vanilla interpretation of the original Libra fragrance, because especially with that name, I feel like this was a bit of a missed opportunity. Even though this fragrance technically came out in the summertime, I feel like this could have been a good play for the fall winter as well, especially with that name. Let me know if you think differently. Okay, so next up is a new fragrance by Replica. This has been so incredibly polarizing, and in this video, I want to kind of give you my interpretation of it, because I think this is a good fragrance. I just think it is marketed not in the best way, and I'm going to tell you why. So this perfume is called Afternoon Delight, and this is by Maison Margiela. This is one of the Replica fragrances, and this is supposed to be a vanilla sweet fragrance with notes of vanilla, whipped cream, madeleine, sandalwood, and musk. So, this perfume got a lot of hype when it first launched, and a lot of people since then have criticized this perfume for just smelling bad to them in their opinion. And people have said that it just smells too medicinal. People have just disliked this fragrance. A lot of people were assuming that they would go for the super gourmand vanilla interpretation, and that's not the case. I will say this, I have smelled this perfume, I think like 3, 4, 5 times. And from my interpretation, this perfume is completely different on paper versus on skin. On skin, it gets a little bit more warm. On paper, it does smell rather medicinal. And I will say, even though it's not listed here, I do think it has a very strong presence when it comes to the almond note. So I smell almond in here a lot, specifically the almond skin. So like whenever, like if you've ever encountered an almond, a nut, right? Um, you kind of like, there's like a scent to the almond nut itself. And I want you to think of smelling the almond skin, right? Think of smelling the almond skin, like that brown part, you know? That's what this fragrance smells like. It smells like almond skin. And I think when people saw the fragrance notes, they were thinking it was going to smell super vanilla, and it does to some degree, but it's vanilla with a ton of almond. And I think that's where the Madeline note comes in. But when people read the fragrance notes, so I think when people saw the marketing, they expected something that was way more gourmand leaning. And this perfume very much is, to me, an almond specific scent. This perfume really chronicles that almond interpretation, and that's not even listed in the notes, but that's my interpretation with it. And I think that's why a lot of people smelled this and didn't like it, because they were thinking they were going to get something else, and that's, I think, a failure on the marketing part. But let me know, do you think differently? Do you think this perfume was marketed totally fine? But I personally think that this fragrance is a nice perfume. I think it's like a nice way of doing a vanilla without going too gourmand, because it does feature the notes of almond quite heavily. Um, I think it's nice. It's not my favorite. I'm not going to go out and buy a full bottle of it. It's not my favorite replica scent. I think it's a good one, but I do think if you are considering buying this fragrance, definitely try it before you buy it, but also consider the fact that this perfume is way more focused on the almond than you might initially think. So I think that's why a lot of people don't like it, because in my opinion, there's a strong note of almond in there that no one's really talking about. And that's where you get that medicinal factor. So yeah, I do think that you need to try this fragrance out before actually buying it. I would recommend at least getting the travel size. I like it. I don't think it's a bad fragrance, but I definitely do think that people need to recognize that this is more of an almond fragrance rather than the scent pyramid that was initially marketed to the general public. Okay, so I do want to talk about Goddess Intense by Burberry. This was launched rather recently. It's a flanker of the original Goddess by Burberry. And I remember, I think I talked about, I forget what fragrances it is, but this was like in my Middle Eastern perfume review. I talked about a fragrance, I think Angam by Latafa, that is supposed to be an interpretation of the original Goddess fragrance by Burberry, and I gave it a bit of a negative review, and people were so judgmental about it. People were like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I'm like, I just didn't like the original Goddess, and that rings true for this as well. So, oh my gosh, we have notes of, if Google will behave, we have notes of lavender at the top, amid of vanilla, vanilla absolute, bourbon vanilla, and vanilla caviar, as well as a base of patchouli. So as you can imagine, this is extremely focused on that vanilla. So if you like vanilla a lot, this might be a fragrance for you. To me, it just smelled like a balsamic vanilla. And if you're okay with it, that's totally fine. But for me, I like the scent. I think it's nice, but it's just not one for me. And I would say if you're interested in the original um, Goddess and you want something more intense, a bit more boozy, perhaps longer wearing, this might be one to try. But for me personally, this is a pass, because I did not like the original Alien Goddess, and I can understand why a lot of people do. It is a fragrance that smells rather wonderful, but for me, whenever I choose to wear a fragrance, I want to wear something that's different. I want to wear something that's more, I don't want to say complex, because that implies that this is not complex, but I mean, honestly, okay, you can see by the scent pyramid that this very much focuses on vanilla. And to me, whenever I wear a fragrance, I don't want to focus so very much on one particular note. I want to branch out a bit. I want to have more like a multifaceted experience. I don't want to just focus on that one note. And this perfume very much focuses on the vanilla note. So if you want to wear something that's approachable like vanilla, this will be good. But if you're not someone who wants to wear something that's like very linear, I know that you might judge me for saying that. If you want to wear something that's more complex, this might not be for you. I know. You might judge me, but that's my personal opinion. And that's the thing with designer fragrances, right? They go through a lot of very rigorous testing and testing and testing. So they're able to come out with a fragrance that everyone really likes. It might not be the most complex or the most multifaceted perfume, but it's a perfume that a lot of people will really like. And this is just an example of that. People really like this, but if someone's looking for something more complex, this might not be for you. And for me personally, this is a fragrance that I am not going to go for, and I can't really imagine myself wearing this perfume. But it's not a bad fragrance. To me, it's just not the best, and that's why it's a pass. Another perfume that I'm like kind of about is Devotion Intense by Dolce& and Gabbana. This is a perfume that's a vanilla white floral fragrance, of course, and it has top notes of hazelnut, a mid of orange blossom, and then a base of vanilla. In my notes, I literally listed this perfume and then I said, eh, that's literally what I got from this fragrance. And I will say that hazelnut was definitely a prominent player in this perfume. So if you like something that's more nutty, this might be one for you. And it is a nice fragrance. I didn't find anything to dislike about it, but then again, I didn't find anything to love about it. And that's why this perfume is a for me. This is like in the same ballpark as Goddess Intense. Like both of these fragrances are very similar. Goddess Intense is more focused on like the balsamic vanilla. Devotion Intense is more focused on like the nutty gourmand vanilla. Both of them are kind of similar, but they're also very individual in their own way. But I dislike them for the same reasons. I think they're both like rather simple, and I don't necessarily want to smell like that. I wouldn't voluntarily pick through my fragrances and choose to wear one of these fragrances for the entire day. I would just get bored. So that's my personal opinion. Again, if you love one of these fragrances, that is totally your prerogative. You should wear whatever you want to wear, whatever makes you happy. But these are not my fragrances that I want to wear. These are not ones that I love. So that's just my opinion. So next up is Prada Virtual Flower. This is a fragrance, it's a flanker of Prada Paradox. This perfume has notes of bergamot at the top, a mid of jasmine and neroli, and then a base of musk and ambrette. In my notes, I have this fragrance listed as, okay, clean, sweet, airy, and a classic white floral. So this perfume was created with the assistance of AI. So they essentially formulated the notes based off of assistance with AI, and they also wanted to create a fragrance that smelled like what jasmine smells like when you smell it from the air. They wanted it to smell like essentially jasmine, but like not directly jasmine, but like in the air. So like essentially you're next to a jasmine bush and you're smelling the fragrance of the jasmine coming through at you. That's what they wanted to go for. And honestly, I think they nailed it pretty well. When I initially smelled it, I didn't really like it. I was kind of like, this is a little bit boring. And to be honest, I tried it again. And the more I've tried it, the more I have found myself drawn to it. It's definitely not a beast mode fragrance. It's not a fragrance that's like very va voom. It's not a fragrance that screams at you very much. But it's a perfume that has a bit of like a subtlety to it that I find quite endearing. So this is a fragrance that does embody those white florals, but it does so in a very like approachable way. And to me, the more like as I smell over time, it starts smelling like smelling the actual jasmine flower. So if you've ever wanted a fragrance that literally smells extremely photorealistic to what a jasmine flower would smell like, this is a fragrance to try. I really do like it, and I would say it's one of my more favorite fragrances from this video. I don't know if I'd purchase it myself because I don't tend to want to smell like that on a regular basis. But if this was my style when it came to fragrances, if I wanted to smell more floral on a day-to-day basis, I would absolutely consider this. It's one of those like understated fragrances that smells very effortless but very lovely at the same time. I really did like it, and I like it the more and more I smell it. I think it's a really good one, and I highly recommend you try it out. Spray it on like spray it on fabric and then just walk around with it as you go about your day, and you will really experience such a beautiful progression. It again, it to me very much smells like the honeyed jasmine flower itself. Initially it smells like the jasmine in the air, but then as it deepens, it smells like the jasmine flower, and I really do like it. Okay, so next up is another fragrance that actually in the opening, I would say is in the same category as Virtual Flower by Prada. But this is a perfume that I was actually comparing to Virtual Sky, and to be honest, this perfume, in terms of what I look for and in terms of my taste, actually ended up to me being my favorite over Virtual Flower, even though I still really do like Virtual Flower. So this is Dear Sky by Ellis Brooklyn. And by the way, if you want to see like a sneak preview of any new fragrances that are coming out, be it designer, niche, whatever fragrances are coming out, you should definitely check out my channel every single Monday. I have a series that I call Smash or Pass, where I talk about the newest fragrance releases, and I call it Smash or Pass because it's an easy way to remember that sometimes we don't have to buy everything we see online. So I call it like a smash, I want to buy you, smash, I don't want to buy this fragrance. So that's why I called it that. So I did feature this in that video, and I talked about, or I did feature this in that series, and a few weeks ago, and I talked about how this fragrance could go either way because of how unusual this scent pyramid is. I was like, this could either be really good or really bad. And in this video, I'm going to tell you what my thoughts on this are, and I've smelled it a few times, so let's talk about it. So we have top notes of honeydew melon, rhubarb, and bergamot, as well as strawberry leaf, a mid of peony, pink pepper, and tuberose, and then a base of galbanum, ambrette, and cedarwood. This perfume is primarily a green perfume, but the florals definitely soften it. They provide a nice accent to it. This is a clean girl fragrance, but it's done in a very interesting way. There's some complexity to it. It's kind of soft, spicy, but it's green without smelling too typical. I actually really like this perfume. If you're a fan of Sniff's Wow Factor, if you really like that perfume, this is an easy favorite for you to try. You should definitely get your nose on this. I was kind of apprehensive about this. I wasn't sure if I would like it or not, but I found myself smelling this perfume repeatedly as I sprayed it on. I love this perfume. It definitely progresses quite well. It does focus on those green aspects, but it's not in like a vegetal way. I do love how they accent it with the peony, with the rhubarb. This fragrance is done quite well. It smells to me kind of, does it smell like clean wool? It's inspired by the Southwest, right? And I get that interpretation. To me, this perfume is almost nostalgic because I grew up in Texas, and this perfume is like one of the fragrances that I can easily imagine someone from like the Midwest or someone from the Southwest just spraying this on and just not really thinking about it, just going about your day, but smelling like clean and still a little bit floral, but not too sweet. I like this perfume because it doesn't smell too overwhelmingly floral, and it doesn't smell too clean, it doesn't smell too green. It just hits all those aspects in a very balanced way, and I actually do really like this perfume. And I don't say that with a lot of green fragrances or a lot of clean fragrances. In fact, a lot of them I do not prefer at all. But this one I actually really do like. And yeah, I'm considering maybe getting myself like a travel size or a decant or something so I can explore it further. But this was one of the more intriguing scents in this video. And I did compare it to Prada Virtual Flower. And Prada Virtual Flower, to me, in the dry down, it came out as like much, like a little bit more sweet, because again, like I get the jasmine flower there, but Dear Sky to me smells more green, but it does have a slight sweetness to it that prevents it from smelling too vegetal. But yeah, I really like Dear Sky. I think it's a beautiful fragrance, and I would say it's one of my favorites. I definitely liked it over Prada Paradox, and I had to compare the two on like different arms because I was like, what do I like the best? And Dear Sky was definitely the one that I preferred. Okay, so next up is a fragrance by Seven Virtue. This is a super gourmand perfume. This is called Candied Lchi, and I smelled this perfume. I wasn't sure if I would like it or not, and I'm going to read you the fragrance notes so you can see what it's supposed to smell like. So we have top notes of lychee, a mid of peony, and then a base of vanilla. So those are the notes there. Again, it smells very simple. It sounds like it would smell very simple, but I'm going to tell you what I think this smells like. And my notes are strong Jolly Rancher in the opening, artificial in the opening, and the dry down is a refreshing cocktail. And to me, this perfume is a good one if you genuinely do want to smell something like super gourmand and sweet. But to me, this was just like a little bit too much. It literally smells like candied lychee. So it's not to my taste, but I can definitely see an audience for this. If you like those like strong gourmand perfumes, this might be one for you, but it just wasn't to my taste personally. So yes, anyway, that's it for this video. Those are all the fragrances I want to cover today. Let me know, have you tried any of these perfumes? Have you bought any of them? What were your thoughts? Did you disagree or agree with any of my opinions? And if you want to see a more masculine version of this video, I did film a similar video where I talked about some of the new designer men's fragrances last week. So check that video out if you haven't already. There are some perfumes in there that are also very androgynous and unisex that I really liked. So check that out. But yeah, thank you so much for watching until the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it interesting, and I'll see you next time. Bye.